Yeah, so it was um, managing investors is a very tricky business. They obviously want to create a lot of profit. They might not necessarily have the same aims as you. So whenever we were seeking out investors, our main focus was, do they have the same vision as us? Do they want to keep cyclists safe on the roads? And only if they are aligned with our vision first are we moving on to the next stage, which is obviously discussing what expertise they can give and what money we can raise. And often expertise and time is much more valuable than simply an injection of cash, because an injection of cash will run out, but expertise, contacts, and general being able to help out is invaluable. Yeah.
So when you're looking for investors, you're kind of also looking for people who can fit into also a bit of an advisor role.
Exactly.
Yeah. So was that something you mentioned, like did you have investors beforehand?
We were in conversations with them, but coronavirus really limited the number of people looking to invest. So we would then let Shillite take a back seat whilst we finished up our first year of universities. And then coronavirus was really underway. So then we were like, especially since in the UK, you currently really can't get a bicycle. There are so many people wanting bicycles that the stores can't keep up. So we saw that in the news and we thought, with so many new cyclists on the road, they've got to stay safe. When the cars eventually come back, they're not going to be used to those. So instead of having them be scared of the cars, how about we put something super smart on the back of the cars that's not guaranteed, but hugely likely based on research to attract this car's attention and keep them safe on the road.
Yeah, and when you're reaching out to investors, what are you thinking about? So are they like angel investors, or are they part of something bigger? Who are you looking to reach out to?
Yeah, so normally we don't want to go for huge people who invest as part of their daily lives because we're still students. We want to have an education, so we're not going to drop out of university unless the company goes huge. So we need to be honest with our investors, and that's really important. So for us, it's more through our schools, like alumni from our high school, from primary school, from middle school, whatever networks we can reach out in and find people in is always a good place to start. And then networking through the people you meet at trade fairs is often a good start, because when you're starting a company, it's important to not just spend a ton of money. So you shouldn't need a ton of money. You should be able to keep it pretty slim at the start.
Right. So when you reach out to investors, what does that process look like? So do you let them, do you go in like asking for a certain valuation and a certain amount, or what does that look like?
So the first thing to do is to write up a business plan and make a valuation of your company.
Yeah.
And so that's based on or the way we do it is we base it on a low effort forecast, a high effort forecast, and a middle ground, which is much more likely. And then we weight those. Then we find a final product, a company valuation based on growth for 5 years, which is pretty much the standard. And then once we have that valuation and we know how much we need to raise to do whatever we want to raise, then we think about how much of a percent of the company that is, and then whether that's something we're willing to do, or whether we need to find an alternative path because it's not something we're willing to do.
Right. Yeah, that's really cool. And I like how earlier you talking about how when you're reaching out to investors, you're just like tapping your network. You're just hustling. And I feel like that's a
Yeah.
common misconception. A lot of time people come and they say, I don't have a network. I have no one I can talk to. It's like, that's not true. You went to school. You know
You
people.
went to school.
You went to school.
You should know people. And worst comes to worst, you go on the street and you start asking people. You go to a trade fair for bikes.
Yeah.
There's almost guaranteed to be a trade fair within the next month within your country that you can take a train to, take a bus to, and just go in and start talking to people.
Yeah.
There's no better way than to start talking to people. Or you call up bike shops. You go into your local bike shop and you say, who's the guy up the chain? And you keep going up the chain until you get to someone who you think is the person you're looking for. There's
Yeah.
always a way to hustle, especially with the internet.